You all gather. You are standing around the tables where you met. For a long time, you knew that Saren wasn't feeling well, but the last few weeks he seemed to be doing better until he wasn't. You all have been privately mourning and trying to work through this, but just wondering, was there something more you could have done? Was there something that you missed? Hi there, Dr. Megan Connell, and this is Psychology at the Table. In this episode, we're going to be discussing a bit more of a serious topic, suicide, and I'm glad to be joined today by my colleague and friend, Dr. Amanda Gao, who is an expert on suicide and suicide prevention. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Megan.
Oh, it's such an important topic to talk about. Now, first off, can you educate us a little bit on what are the rates of suicide currently?
Okay, so we know worldwide that there are about 800,000 suicides a year. However, we know this is probably widely underreported. So this number probably doesn't fully recognize how many people we lose to suicide each year for many different reasons. We know here in the United States it's the 10th leading cause of death.
Oh, wow.
And across all ages. And then among youth, which is defined as ages 10 to 24, it's actually the second leading cause of death. So this is a really big public health issue here in our country and everywhere.
Yeah. So what are some signs that someone you know might be struggling or contemplating suicide or having thoughts of this?
Okay. There's a couple of different areas of types of signs you're going to look for. I want people to think in terms of what the person is saying, what the person is doing, and then what mood or emotions they think they're seeing in the person. So in terms of talk, we're really looking for things like statements about life not being worth living, being a burden to other people, feeling like there's nothing to live for, feeling like things are never going to change and get better for them. Just lots of hopeless kinds of conversations. Any statements like that we're always going to want to take seriously. In addition to someone directly saying, I'm thinking of killing myself or ending my life, we want to make sure we listen to what people are telling us and really take action if needed. We want to pay attention to their behavior. So significant changes in behavior are a very big warning sign. It could be changes in sleep. It could be they've suddenly become more aggressive, a little more volatile than you're used to seeing with them. They might be more withdrawn, isolated. Maybe there are things they used to care about. Maybe even it's, the group and the game, and suddenly they're just kind of not into it anymore. And, if you see these sudden behavior changes, that might be a time to reach out to your friend as well. And then that last category, again, is emotions or mood. So what are we seeing in them? Do they appear to be sad most of the time? Do we think we're seeing depression? Do they appear really anxious? Are they apathetic? Are we seeing a lot of irritability? Irritability is an often missed sign of mood and other types of issues a person might be struggling with. So anything that's a big change from what we're seeing with them in their mood or emotions can be a red flag as well.
Excellent. And so if you're seeing some of these, everyone knows, talk to your players. That's our number one thing. But this is probably a little bit of a harder thing to talk about. So do you have any pointers for somebody who's concerned about this and wanting to broach this subject and wanting to talk about someone with their concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. This can be hard. I fully recognize that. And, the good news that I'm hoping that everybody will take away from this is that you don't have to be a trained mental health professional to reach out and to support someone else. Something as simple as just starting a conversation, making sure that you're, somewhere private with the person, just to give them a little bit of space and checking in with them, asking how they're doing. It is okay to ask directly about any thoughts of suicide or ending their life. You are never going to plant the idea or, encourage that in somebody by asking them. That's a really big myth that's out there. And you just want to listen non-judgmentally. You don't have to fix anything, but it can be helpful to connect them to resources.
And what would be some good resources to plug somebody into?
Absolutely. So there is a 24-hour crisis line that anyone can call at any point in time. It's 800-273-TALK. So that's through the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And they also have a website as well. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has great information about how to have these conversations and then how to help yourself or your friend get support. SPRC, which stands for Suicide Prevention Resource Center, has a lot of good information, as does the American Association of Suicidology. All of those are sources of information that any of us can use to support a friend.
Awesome. And links for all of those will be down in the doobly-doo, so check those out. Now, if this happens where somebody does die by suicide who's a member of your group, what would you suggest to the group as obviously they're going to be mourning and going through a lot. Like, how do they best handle that, or what are some maybe resources for them and their friends?
Absolutely. So many of those resources I just mentioned would be, potentially helpful in this situation too. I think it's recognizing this is a very tough loss. Obviously when a group is grieving together, being able to get together to find ways to honor the memory of your friend and kind of do things that feel healthy and supportive in that way. It's important that a piece of the discussion, though, among the group is that, in 90% of suicide deaths, we know that mental health conditions are present. And so it's talking a little bit about that and recognizing that all of us may need support at different points in time and that it's okay to get support if anyone needs it.
And now I'm thinking too, a story I saw once on Reddit of a player who had completed suicide, and the rest of the group really didn't know that they were struggling. And is that something that you can see where maybe like the person has the one thing that they love and it doesn't come there?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's so true. The analogy that I use when I talk a lot about a suicide loss is an analogy of an iceberg. Sometimes we're able to see the tip of the iceberg. Not always, but sometimes we can see that. But no matter what, there's always so much more going on that we don't see. Suicide is never caused by one single thing. Definitely none of us is ever, responsible in that. If you lose someone, we tend to want to blame ourselves.
Right.
Especially if it's a group that you're really close with. And you think, how did I not see this? But sometimes we don't see things for a variety of reasons, and we can't blame ourselves. Everybody's doing the best that they can, and none of us can control another person.
Right. And I think that's something really important to remember, is that it wasn't up to you. You can do things to help, but even if you can't get there to help, you do what you can.
Absolutely. And certainly, we all care about people. None of us wants to lose anyone to suicide. Hopefully one day there will be a world without suicide. That is definitely the goal of myself and many other people that I know. But for now, when we do experience a loss, we need to be gentle and kind to ourselves and recognize that none of us, or no one particular thing even in someone's life, is to blame for that.
Right. Any other final thoughts or things that you would want people who are around those who might be hurting to know, or other resources?
Yeah, I think it's really just, keeping in mind that having a conversation can save a life. This really is something that anybody can do. My husband wears one of these AFSP bracelets on his arm, and he's at the gym a lot, and he is not in the mental health field, and he'll have people ask him things about the bracelet and then start sharing things with him, and he just directs them to resources if they needed. He doesn't have to solve the problem himself, and I think that that's true for all of us. Just being able to talk to people, being willing to be open and non-judgmental, and then, if needed, guide them towards the folks who have that expertise.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And hopefully you can come back sometime. We can talk other stuff.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have other questions or comments or follow-up questions you might have, please leave comments below. And as always, let's make space at the table for everyone.